All right, here we go. Another edition of Buc What You Heard. My name is Gene. You can reach me at Super Heavyweight. You follow me and I'll follow you back. This is another edition of Buc What You Heard. So we're getting ready to kick this off. And this is the NFC South edition. A little bit different than what we've been going through the past couple of shows. And we're going to focus on the New Orleans Saints. One of those teams that have made some moves in free agency. And I brought somebody on, Sean Williams. He's the podcaster for Under the Dome, a really good podcast, really good content. If you want to know what's going on in other parts of the NFC South, he's a really good. He has a really good football IQ, and he'll give it to you straight, and trying to let you know what's going on with them. How you doing tonight, Sean?
Doing great, man. I'm sitting here going, man, he is raising that bar right on up. But hey, it could be a lot worse for all of us. We could be wearing red and black. So
yeah, that Super Bowl hangover thing. Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah. I realize, somebody's got to win and somebody's got to lose, but it couldn't have happened to a better bunch as far as I'm concerned.
I'm right there with you. You get no arguments from me on that.
All right. I'm doing real good, man. I want to thank you guys so much for having me on, and very much appreciate the chance to expand the brand. And I hope sometime in the immediate future we get to reciprocate and bring you aboard with us as well.
Yeah, I love talking football, man, and there's not that much going on right now. We're getting close to the draft, so it's good to kind of have a little peace offering here for now until football season gets started and get you guys on here or get you on. So who all's associated with Under the Dome? Let's give me a little bit more information about
there is me. You can follow me and what I'm doing. My personal Twitter account is @DrewsDad3721. And just for the record, Drew is my son, not Drew Brees. My co-host is probably the very, very most intelligent New Orleans Saints person that I have ever seen in my life. His name is Alan Ulrich. He is @79Saints. And you can follow our show's account at Under the Dome PO1. We try to make sure that we stay on top of the latest breaking news and rumors. And at this point in the season, where Sean Payton gets his manicure and pedicure from, just the usual type stuff. But things are really about to get very interesting in, not only Who Dat Nation, but for everyone, coming up with this draft. And to be completely honest with you, not to belabor a moot point, but I really and truly, I believe that this draft is maybe the most important draft that the New Orleans Saints have faced in quite some time.
Yeah, there you go. And hey, Michael, I see you sitting there patiently, man. I haven't forgot about you. Michael Pless, who is a regular on Buc What You Heard. Real wealth of information, great football IQ, and that's the home of RealBucsTalk.com. No longer Real Bucs Talk, but RealBucsTalk.com. I went on the site. Really great information about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I encourage anybody and everybody to take a time to get out there and check it out and just see what they have on there. Mike, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing good, man. My stomach's hurting a little bit just having Saints in the presence right now. But I'm doing good. It's almost draft time, so.
Hey, man, it could be the Atlanta Falcons and the other end be hurting.
That's good.
But, hey, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. So
there you go.
Yeah, well said.
Up until September, we can all smoke a peace pipe and we can talk about them together. So
yeah, there you go.
But yeah, man, I'm good. The draft's only 2 weeks away, so I'm pumped. We got this new site going and a lot of great stuff on the draft and player prospects. It's really where we put our opinion out there, but we also allow the fans to make their own opinions and provide feedback. So it's really a nice site where it's interactive and but also deep with knowledge that we like to provide. So it's just fun all around, and just ready and can't wait to keep it going.
All right, man. That's what I like to hear. So I'm going to get back over here, Mr. Williams, and I'm going to start with you. I know that everybody's pretty much for the past couple of years pretty much written off the Saints. What have the Saints done in the offseason? We're not even getting into the draft, just with free agency, with some of the moves that you needed to make within the team. What have the Saints done to improve their prospects for next season?
Well, to be completely honest with you, I've noticed this year, probably more than in the past several seasons, a specific game plan, and I know that sounds to be somewhat of a generic term as such, but probably the one unit above all else that left the New Orleans Saints in a lot of trouble last year was special teams. And that being said, they canned the special teams coach and brought in towards the end of the season last year, brought in an advisor, and he's just kind of the de facto special teams guy, if you want to call it that. And you've seen specific guys such as Ted Ginn Jr. from the Carolina Panthers, and several, while they may not be all pro names yet, they brought in to try to improve this special teams. You know, when the Saints fans look back on the 2016 season, it was the third consecutive 7-9 season, and make no bones about it. I don't believe in excuses. Strictly the way that I handle myself. I don't believe in making excuses for why this team this, why this team that. This team was every bit of a 7-9 team last year, and they earned that 7-9 record. Make no mistake about that. But at the same time, you want to try to effort yourself to try to pull something positive from that to move forward on. And that being said, 9 losses, 7 of which were by 6 points or less. And the way that I normally explain that to most people is when you get down to a game of 6 points or less, you're talking about an extra first down on a drive, a touchdown rather than a field goal at the end of a drive, one less offensive fumble, one more fumble recovery or
a bounce going your way.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes down to those kind of numbers, you know, you're close. And don't read me wrong here. I'm not by any means drinking the Kool-Aid and going to jump up and say, hey, we're going to win the Super Bowl. I'm not into all of that. At this point, the only target in sight is improving on a 7-9 record and not being in a position a year from now where I'm saying not only this is why, but this team is definitely improving, and I do believe that the quality of the free agents that they brought in during this off-season period are far better than the ones they've had in the past several.
Okay. And let me ask you this. You know, with Drew Brees is a first ballot Hall of Famer, as much as I hate to say it, as much as he's hurt this team a lot over the past season, I don't know how many seasons. Are the Saints in a position to where they're starting to get ready for life after Drew Brees, or is that something that's on the horizon, or something that is not really being considered at this time? It's more or less building this team up to make one last playoff run, or a couple more playoff runs before they move forward.
Well, to be completely honest with you, you could probably ask 5 different people that question and probably get 6 different answers. The plain and simple fact of the matter, to answer probably the biggest question that you just referenced, are they preparing for life after Breeze? That remains to be seen. I guess that's probably the most politically correct way of looking at it. As of right now, today, no, they have not. Not last year, but the draft prior, we took Garrett Grayson out of Colorado State, and at the end of the season last year, he was on the practice squad. Now, I don't know if that was just a blown draft pick, or just exactly how that worked out. But the bottom line is he did not benefit this team in the slightest way, having invested a draft pick in him. Now, there's several rumors and conjecture as to what this team is going to do at the top end of this draft here. There's several positions of need. I think that probably, as per the past, my backups there. As per the, I lost my train of thought. I'm having a nervous breakdown. But hey, there's no job greater than being dad.
There you go.
Anyway, getting back on point. I don't think that they've done nearly enough to address the fact that they have a quarterback that in September, when the season kicks off, is going to be 37, 38 years old. Yes, absolutely. Drew Brees is not only a first ballot Hall of Famer, but in my opinion, a unanimous choice Hall of Famer. Absolutely. He says he wants to play until he's 45, 46. I believe, as unrealistic as that sounds, I do believe that Drew is going to raise that level, raise that bar of expectations, because of the preparation that he puts in, because of the way that he prepares, not only from a team standpoint, but personally, his off-season regimen, so on and so forth. But at the same time, you have to approach it realistically and see it. I guess probably the closest reference point right now would be how the end came for Peyton Manning. And I feel the same way about Peyton Manning. First ballot Hall of Famer, unanimous choice, blah, 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 blah. You can go back and you can watch the film, and the end came for Peyton over a 2 or 3 game period, almost to the point where you could literally put in a game film and say that was the play.
And I didn't mean to cut you off here, but I've seen throws that Drew made last year, and they didn't look like Drew Brees of the year before, the year before that, where he had these windows and he could put a ball in a window, and you see a little bit of velocity coming off the ball a little bit. And I was just wondering, tape doesn't lie. So I'm just wondering, are there any quarterbacks in this draft that could potentially come in and sit behind Drew Brees and possibly take his place when he does eventually retire? Or are they looking at next year's draft for something like that?
That would
one good thing, Mike. If you want to step in at any time, I know you've been patiently listening here, but if you want to step in at any time, please do. But go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
feel free to say, hey, dude, man, shut up. I got airtime here too. Uh, I haven't got my royalty check yet, so hey, we're no. In all honesty, I don't strictly my personal view on it. I've been saying for, believe it or not, not to pat myself on the back or anything such as that. I've been saying I have been advocating for probably 4, maybe 5 years. Hey, if we don't do something, because you think about it, this entire time, it's never been just Breeze. It's always been Peyton and Breeze, Peyton and Breeze. And while you look at the top end of that spectrum, you have a Super Bowl title from in the same stadium where within 20, maybe at the most 20 years ago, they were wearing paper bags over their heads when they came to the games. Yeah. Cherished memories. But
and in the Aaron Brooks days.
Actually, well, that's another
we'll say that for
subject for another time. I think he may be one of the most vilified quarterbacks that did not deserve it for the New Orleans Saints history. I really do. But that can be another issue for another time. In terms of addressing the issue of life after Breeze, no, I cannot say that I believe that they've done an adequate job at all in trying to address this. Now, theoretically, you would like the San Francisco 49ers, Montana to Young,
Steve Young,
Green Bay Packers, Favre to Rodgers. You'd like that sort of practically seamless transition. Realistically speaking, for that to happen, you're talking about bringing a guy in, and for 2, maybe 3 seasons, they do nothing but carry a clipboard and learn. Mm-hmm. And as I said, it's for Saints fans. Yeah, Drew is coming off a season where he passed for over 5,000 yards. Actually, last year the Saints accomplished something that has only been done one time in the history of the league before, and that was a quarterback to pass for 5,000 yards, 2 receivers to surpass 1,000 yards receiving, and a running back to surpass 1,000 yards on the ground. That's only been done one time before, and that was by the Broncos. I believe that was the last season that they won the Super Bowl. But that the harsh reality of that is you pick that up and say, wow, we really accomplished a lot, but 7 and 9. And the way that I'm approaching this and I'm looking at this, the only stat whatsoever, I mean, you can talk fumbles, you can talk touchdowns, you can say this, and at the end of the day, the only stat that matters at all for the New Orleans Saints is 7 wins and 9 losses.
Yeah, wins and losses. There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give you some names as far as prospects that the Saints could possibly look at. I don't think they'll take anyone in the first 2 rounds. I think a guy like Nathan Peterman out of Pittsburgh would be a nice selection. Maybe a Josh Dobbs out of Tennessee. But I think, if I'm the Saints, I think I would wait till next year. Next year's class is loaded at quarterback. A lot better.
To be completely honest with you, Michael, I would not even remotely consider myself a draft guru by any stretch of the imagination. But I'm 49 years old. I've been following the NFL probably since I'm 6, and as per the usual guys in the South, I basically religiously following the NFL since 6, 7 years old. And all that being said, I know the game. There's all these different semantics of the game that can change, but at the core, the basic how to win, how to play the game do not change.
Right.
And that being said, there are 2 quarterbacks that out of this class that, while were I Mickey Loomis or Sean Payton, I wouldn't even remotely contemplate taking at say the top of or at 11 or 32, which is our 2 picks in the first round.
And while you're right there, let me ask you this: are you guys? And this is one of the listeners. They're asking, are you going to go offense or defense in the first round, or would it be a combination of both?
Got to go defense.
Yes. Well, you see, we're in rather a unique position, to be honest with you, Gene, because while I mentioned earlier that we had the 2 receivers over 1,000 yards receiving last year, one of those guys we just traded away in Brandon Cooks. Now, me personally, there's this outer fringe, lunatic fringe, of which I'm probably part, that feels as though you got Drew Brees at playing quarterback, you've got enough of a receiving core to make it through the season. Now, don't misunderstand what I'm saying here. I'm not saying that, like a lot of people, especially Saints fans, they seem to take for granted that just because you have number 9 at quarterback, everything's going to be all right. It's not. And it's only a matter of time. And please understand, I'm 40. Like I said, I'm 49. Probably 42, 41 of those years, I'm a die-hard follower of this game. Drew Brees is my favorite quarterback of all time. Obviously, I mean, he brought the Lombardi to Poydras Avenue, or Poydras. I don't know if that's street or avenue, but anyway, I'm trying not to offend the natives. All that being said, Drew, the end is going to come, and it's going to come sooner rather than later. And chances are better than not that it's going to be a harsh reality when it does happen. And that's unfortunate, but it's the nature of the game.
Okay. And Matt Ulrich had mentioned, he says, this is a bold statement right here. Matt's saying that he guarantees that the Saints will draft both offense and defense in the top 2 rounds. And they're talking about McCaffrey at number 11. He said that wouldn't shock him. And you know what? Drew Brees, and it galls me to say this, he makes players better around him. I mean,
he does. He does.
I hate it. Just irks me to say this, but it's true. This guy makes pedestrian receivers look like Pro Bowlers. It just and he puts the ball in a place where they catch it and they can't mess it up. It's almost like he dumbs down the game for them. And not to take anything away from your receivers, but that's just
I love Matt. Matt's my draft guru.
All right.
To be completely honest with you, I would be. You have to take into consideration that our head coach is an offensive Frankenstein. He can. I really and truly, realistically, I think that his medication has no effect if he doesn't take an offensive player at the top end of the draft. But as I said, if you're looking at wide receiver, yes, you really have to get down into the nuts and bolts of it to gauge the level of need there. But other offensive skill positions, yes, we need quarterback. That's a foregone conclusion for, as I said, the past 5 years. The other skill position, the running back, We have Mark Ingram, and I think that there again, you're talking about one of the most vilified players in the league. All he did last year was average 5.1 yards a carry. And a lot of people don't give Mark nearly enough credit for exact. Of course, a lot of people don't do the research and don't see the improvements that he's made the way that
absolutely.
those of you're talking about a guy that was not even remotely considered a receiver coming out of Alabama, and he has consistently improved that aspect of his game, and he has developed, and if you want to use that word, morphed into in my opinion, one of the elite premier backs of the league. Now, he's not going to put up 2,000 yards in a season a la Adrian Peterson, this and that. But at the same time, if you're looking for a precedent to be set in terms of this, you go back over the past for the New Orleans Saints. We had Ricky Williams. We drafted Deuce McAllister. Okay. You fast forward a little bit, you got Deuce McAllister, you draft Reggie Bush. So, logic dictates that you don't wait until your car has a flat to think about maybe the time is right to think about some new tires.
Right.
Maybe to as you said, dumb it down a little bit.
Yeah.
There's so many as corny as and stupid as it may sound, there's so many positions of need. It's just a matter of who you're talking to and how they perceive it as to what is the most needed positions. In terms of myself, I don't see any need on the board even remotely as great as that of an edge rusher. Okay. You need a bookend for Cam Jordan. In terms of your offensive line, your defensive line assignments when you play the Saints, you got to watch number 94, whether that be over here or over here. But if he's over here, you haven't had to worry about anything coming from over here. Well, you need that bookend presence that evens up the tables a little bit. Now, that need. That was kind of sort of addressed with Nick Fairley. Mm-hmm. And we were talking earlier about the...
Is that long? Do you feel like that's a long-term fix with bringing
Nick Fairley?
Yeah.
That remains to be seen. All we have... Yeah,
I would agree.
And I don't mean to give you a flake answer that way, but if we know, the only thing that we have to go on as far as Fairley is his track record, and his track record says that he goes somewhere, he impresses, he gets his deal, and then he gets lazy.
Sounds like Rob Ryan.
No, you missed step number 2 where they impress.
Hey, let me go back to Mark Ingram.
Certainly,
I don't think he gets used enough. I think they should try to establish more of a balanced attack. I think at times they get too pass happy.
Absolutely,
and try to lean on Breeze a little bit too much. I think Ingram is a guy that you can definitely give the ball 20. Yeah, you can give him the ball 25 times a game, and I think when they've done that, they've been very successful. Am I wrong in saying that? Or?
No, not at all.
Okay.
There is a consistent and constant outcry among the fan base here. Why do we not run the ball more? Why don't we use Ingram? And we have that game where Ingram makes those 25, 30 yards, or excuse me, 35, 25. And see, this is what happens when you go behind enemy territory. you have that game where Ingram is,
Mhm.
by conventional wisdom, quote unquote, used properly. Well, then why didn't you give the ball to Drew? Um, it's my personal experience that says per unit, and by that I mean you got your offensive unit and your defensive unit.
Mhm.
Per units on the football field, you got room for one star.
Right.
Uh, and
Mhm.
that sounds really combative.
And
Maybe
let me step in here just for a second. You win as a team, and
absolutely.
I believe that when what I've seen from the Saints watching game film, when their running game is on, this gives Drew Brees free reign to do a little bit more than what
Mhm.
he's kind of put into something like this when the running game is not functioning. And then
Absolutely.
when he's got the running game, he's got a lot more options open to him. It's a little bit harder to get pressure on the quarterback because you have to account for that running game, and it
Mhm.
makes everybody else legitimate. So I guess I don't understand. I'm kind of like Michael. I don't understand
Mhm.
why he's not utilized more. He's an every down back, and that's something that
Yeah.
Absolutely.
there are so many teams that are looking in the NFL period that are looking for an every down back, and I feel like this guy is underutilized. I feel
Mhm.
like if you put the weight on the team on him and just hey run the
Right.
ball, and then it frees everything up as you progress through, wears down your defense, and it puts you in a better position to win.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Now,
I
so
could
now another reason.
go ahead.
I completely agree.
Reason, I mean, could be the defense. Obviously, I mean, they find themselves, they get
That's true.
up and then they find themselves in a tied game. So you kind of get into that situation, or they're down, so they can't
Yeah.
really, they find themselves getting out of the running game too early often. Um, if I'm the Saints in this draft, I focus on defense and I go defensive heavy. I focus on corners. I focus on D line. Um, even offensively, I think they'd be okay. I think you can definitely get a receiver if they want to add to the receiving core later on. Day two, there's a lot of good depth there. The values there in day two. Even looking at another tight end.
I think this draft
Yeah,
right here is where in the later rounds some GMs are going to separate themselves from other GMs by finding these value picks in the later
Yes.
rounds, and those guys are out there. And
most definitely.
And
as deep as this draft is, those guys are out there, and you're going to know right away, which GMs are actually doing their due diligence and scouting and getting those guys in that fit that system, their particular system.
Gene, I at the same time, I earlier today when I talked to you privately, I made the joke about Mickey Loomis, but I want to give Sean Payton maybe not the full credit that he deserves, but what I think a lot of people don't realize until they stop and back up and look at it a little bit closer. What they don't give Sean Payton nearly as much enough credit for is turning the bottom end of the draft into the top end of the roster. And by that, I mean guys like Pierre Thomas, Marcus Colston. These guys were, Marcus Colston was almost Mr. Irrelevant in his draft. Pierre Thomas was signed as an undrafted free agent.
Right.
So while he hasn't hit home runs on every choice that he's made, and at the bottom of my heart, I really and truly feel like Sean Payton is an outstanding evaluator of talent. The
So
the
so so let me ask you this. I'm glad you brought that up. Where does Sean Payton and this is kind of good for Bucks fans if you're really wanting to know about other teams. Where does Sean Payton fit in the grand scheme of things with Mickey Loomis in the draft? Is he equally important in the draft, or is this more Mickey Loomis? I'm going to get these guys and I'm going to put them into your system because I feel like they'll work, or do they like work together, or how does that work in New Orleans?
As best as I can tell, it's generally a on the surface to to the unknowing public, it looks like maybe I'm searching for a word here. Maybe a good partnership. But I feel reasonably sure that I could guarantee you that when it comes right down to it, Mickey knows his limitations. He can realistically say, okay, I don't have the knowledge on this that Peyton does, so I'm going to have to lean on his understanding, his ability, and I don't think that they clash too very often on stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I see. And you guys are in salary cap hell every offseason, and you manage to always bring somebody else in. Never ceases to amaze me. Mm-hmm. And there again, that's a testament to what a good GM he is. Now, guys, I do, because this is a Buc show. I wanted to get an idea of what your thoughts were as far as the free agency and what the Bucs fans can look for when the Bucs face the New Orleans Saints 2 times out of the year. Now I want to kind of switch roles here. There you go. Don't worry. You guys will at least win 1 or 2 games. I get the L. But I want to get your thoughts on the Buccaneers free agency. The moves that Tampa, I know that you follow football. You've seen what's going on. What are your thoughts on what the Bucs have done in the offseason so far?
Well, I'll be completely honest with you. I don't follow their moves nearly as religiously as I do ours. And that being said, that could be translated as I see a name every once in a while as it crosses my wire.
Okay.
Now that being said, I can tell you that looking at things the way that I've looked at for the past couple of seasons, I really and truly anticipate Tampa to make a bold move this season towards the NFC South crown. I really do. Jameis Winston has come in, and when he came in, I wouldn't have given you 50 cents and a bucket of warm pee-pee for what his future would hold. But at the same time, I'm man enough to stand here and tell you I was wrong about Jameis Winston. He's managed to keep himself together and take care of his business and be about his business. And I think that you guys are going to be probably in a prime position in the next couple of seasons to start seeing the benefits of that.
All right. And I want to get some of these. Go ahead, Michael. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Yeah. No, you're good. I just want to give my thoughts as far as what the Saints did this offseason. I really thought getting the guard Larry Walford was really a big addition. Because Drew Brees he likes having those guards that can give him time, to step up into the pocket. They don't really, emphasize their tackles, even though they do have really good tackles right now. But I thought getting Wofford and getting back there again, I thought that was really good, going alongside Max Unger. So you got your offensive line pretty much solidified, I believe. And then also I think letting go of Jarius Byrd, I thought was the right choice, just to let Von Bell get more playing time to be the player that he can be. So I thought overall it was pretty good.
And I think there's more upside with Von Bell, to be very honest, just on a talent scale.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that the time has come where you don't really he hasn't left you many options. And by that I mean Jairus Byrd. He hasn't left you many options to make any other choice but what you made. His play over the past 2-3 seasons that he's been in New Orleans, have you guys
injured?
You guys on the outside looking in, did y'all see $54 million worth of production?
I thought he was. If you go back to some of my podcasts, I felt like he was overpaid. Coming in, I didn't feel like
incredibly overpaid.
I didn't feel like there was enough game film on him as a professional to justify what he was paid. And
I have my own theory on that, and a lot of people have stopped and said, "Hey, you have a pretty good point," and then a lot of people have told me I'm an idiot. But maybe you guys, well, you got to consider the source.
Exactly.
But see, the thing that you have to look at when it comes to Jairus Byrd, he came to us from the AFC East in the Buffalo Bills.
Right.
You think back over the period of time when he was at Buffalo, who did he play against? What quarterbacks did he play against? Do you remember any of them?
Lemon?
Not any good ones, except Brady. I mean,
you're talking about a bunch of guys that are looking to make an impact and willing to take chances and
right.
more than likely make errors. And then you move on to the NFC South. You're talking about Drew Brees, Matty Ice, not Cam Jordan. He's on our team. Cam Newton and you guys, Winston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that the caliber of the competition has greatly affected. I mean, Byrd was brought in.
Would you say exposed him or affected him?
Affected.
Yeah.
I don't ever want to get caught in a position where I'm questioning or shortchanging guys' ability, legacy, however you want to put that. I will say he did not produce in New Orleans even a remote fraction of what he did in Buffalo. And my personal opinion on that is the fact that you saw the quality of the competition that he played against in terms of his statistics.
Yeah, there you go. And I think the injuries didn't help his situation either. But at the end of the day, and maybe I'm wrong here, was he injured more than he was on the field, or
no?
It almost seems like it to me.
It seems that way because that happened. He came in.
I know initially, right?
He came in and he played, I want to say 2, maybe 3 games, and then got hurt.
Yeah,
and he missed the rest of that season. And the next season, he was here and there, and he was out, and he was here, and he was out. He was never able to sustain any sort of consistency whatsoever. Now, I'm giving you my eval of this. He was never able to maintain any consistency whatsoever in his game, mm-hmm. and that translated across the board in the statistics that he did or did not put up as a Saint.
Yeah, there you go. So ultimately, based on where you guys ended up at the end of the season in the NFC South, would you say that you've put yourself in a position to pass like a Bucks team or a Carolina team or a shell-shot Atlanta Falcons team?
Well, do you want the hot take answer? Do you want?
I just based on the moves that you've made. I mean, because this is cool. You'll be able to come back and say, I was on Buc What You Heard, and I made this prediction about my team. Go back and look at the tape if you don't believe me. So, I want you to just put it all out there on the table, and let's have it.
Okay, the hot take answer is we're going to win the Super Bowl. The realistic answer is where is my medicine?
I just had to take a shot. I had to take a drink after that one. Sorry, I had to take a drink of water after that one. That was.
Realistically speaking, I really and truly I think that we've improved our situation. Yeah. I don't think that we're done improving our situation. We've come up to a point. I think that just as crucial as what we've already done and accomplished is what what we have yet to do in the draft. That I think, as I mentioned earlier, I think this could possibly be maybe one of the most important drafts that this team has had in quite some time.
Now, the one position that Drew Brees always thrived with was the tight end position. Do you see yourself getting a tight end to take a little bit of pressure off of Drew Brees, or is that something that's in consideration? I mean, could that possibly be your first pick? I know that Matt had mentioned it. Matt Ehrlich had mentioned it earlier. No, you don't think so?
I don't. To me,
you think
yes.
defense is more?
I really do. I really and truly and realistically believe that there has got to be such a premium put on improving the defensive side of the ball that it has got to be addressed early and possibly often. Yeah.
Are you happy? Are you happy with the defensive coordinator you have? And please don't compare him to Rob Ryan. I'm just saying, let him stand on his own merit. And are you happy with what he's trying to do or the direction that he's trying to take your team?
I really am. I think Dennis Allen has done an adequate job.
It takes, if you want to be realistic, it takes about 3 years to get a team acclimated to a new system. If you want everybody to flourish, or if you want at least your core to flourish. So there's always that, and especially going from the one extreme to the other, from what Rob Ryan was trying to do to what normal coaches try to do.
Sure. I like these steps that have been made, if that makes any sense. But, there again, not throwing anyone under the bus, but at the end of the day, you have to look back and you see that it's still a 7-9 record, which means that there's a lot of places that have to be improved and have to be improved greatly for this team.
We feel your pain, man. We feel your pain. I can, as Bucs fans, we know exactly what you're talking about. Go ahead, Mike.
Let me just add to that. From what I've been hearing, I think Saints are going to go heavy on defense early. I can't state that enough. I think at 11, I think they're going to go with best pass rusher available. I think that's something they definitely need to address to help out Cam Jordan. And then I think with that last pick in the first round, I think they can go a number of ways again. I think it's either corner or maybe a best offensive player available. But I think defense is where they're going to go heavy in this draft.
Sure. The I'm not going to say, I can't use the adjective overwhelming, but a lot of what I'm hearing, the Derek Barnett train is definitely fueling up in the depot there. As far as number 11 goes, there's maybe just as much possibility as not that Barnett will even be there at number 11. I've heard so many different names, and I
have to ask this question. And you're talking about defensive line here. Sheldon Rankins, how did you feel about his season? I know he was injured, but just in the time that he was able to play, do you see his skill set translating from college to the NFL in assisting the Saints to get better?
I really do. I think that
was my guy.
Rankins.
I'm not going to sit here and lie. That was my guy for the Bucs. I thought the Bucs were going to grab him up, but they went with. Go ahead,
Gene. Let me just say this: if Hargraves would have went to the Giants, Rankins would have been a Buc at 11. I can guarantee that.
Of all the years that I've been doing the draft profiles and this and that, and just even back far enough that I've been following, there's only one player ever in all of my years of doing this that no matter how hard or far that I looked, I never found a single negative remark or report on in terms of leading up to the draft. All the prospect reports, the evaluations, there's only been one ever that I've never seen and I've as far as that goes, I've heard it remarked how other people have looked to find negative stuff on him to know exactly what they were, and there was never anything negative to be said about the guy, and that was Sheldon Rankins. It was unfortunate for him to go down in training camp. But, by the same token, if he's going to have to go through something like that, it was better that it happened the way that it did, and him be able to get back to active duty before the season was over to get some reps, to get some experience and what have you. And I think that I think that he came along somewhat as far as evaluating exactly how far he's come along. I believe that you're going to have to look at the final verdict when you have all the pieces in place, so to speak. You get that bookend for Cam, you get that that steady rotation between Rankins and Fairley, and you get that production out of the secondary that you need. You're going to see how it all comes together, and I believe it's going to work out for the best. But I'm old school when it comes to theory of how football works, and by that I mean the way that I always learned this game. The game is decided at the line of scrimmage. As an offense, if you don't impose your will and dictate to that defense the tempo, the flow of the game, you're not going to be able to score. And by the same token, as a defense, if you're not able to be able to generate some pressure on that opposing quarterback, it really doesn't make any difference at all who you got in that secondary. Every quarterback, even the worst quarterback in the NFL, is good, and possibly
because
great.
they're in the NFL for a reason.
Yeah. Absolutely,
except for Geno Smith.
And I don't think that I'm wrong in making this comment. I have never, in 40 plus years, I've never in my life seen the parity among teams that there is in the National Football League right now.
Yeah, it's crazy. It really is. And guys,
I think that's great for the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. This is a fan show, and I'm going to go back and forth with you guys here because I want to make sure that the listeners get their voice heard as well. And I just want to go through some of these comments because we've had some real good conversation on the outside here, and I know that Matt was giving you grief, and he was talking about and he was talking about you talking about O.J. Howard. And does that sound about? He was talking about you picking O.J. Howard at number 11, maybe. Does that sound about right?
I think Matt does. Sometimes I think Matt does that just to see my eyebrows wrinkle up and that one vein in my forehead start doing this. Me personally, my view on that is with the amount of money that you're spending right now on Fleener, and not to mention retaining Hill, I really don't think that it's very productive to spend even more to bring in a completely new, much less a first round draft pick as a tight end. You're investing all of your money in one position, and I just don't see how that's productive.
Yeah, and
now do I think that O.J. Howard with a Drew Brees could be a possibly game breaking deal? Absolutely, but I think that this team is better served addressing other needs with their first pick or picks.
So So basically, you're just not sold on. And I know I've asked this question in a bunch of different ways, but you're just not sold on the Saints going offense. They're going defense heavy on this draft.
Well, I think in the first 3 rounds we have, and Matt is going to grill me on this because I'm probably going to get it wrong. I think in the first 3 rounds we have like 5 or 6 picks, and I fully believe that 3, maybe 4 of those will be offensive players. I just given who our coach is, I believe
exactly, and I think that's where my thought process is. We're talking about Sean Payton.
Right.
Absolutely.
And that's Mr. Air It Out. I mean, I could see him. I could see him 2 seconds left in the first half throwing the ball down the field. Sean Payton, Mr. real life Madden himself.
Ask the Oakland Raiders. What it all boils down to, and I get grief all the time because in the grand scheme of things, I give Sean Payton way more credit than a lot of other people do. They hold his feet to the fire. They hold him accountable for a lot more than I do. But at the end of the day, I'm just a guy that follows this team. I think I have an above average knowledge of the team and the game and what have you, and so on and so forth. But I don't have the temerity or the arrogance to think that I possibly could even remotely know this team the way that Sean Payton does. And you factor into that what, in all honesty, appears to be the fact that this is a make or break season for Payton. If you don't, I honestly and sincerely believe that as great as he's been for the New Orleans Saints in his tenure here, which is going into the 11th year, if you don't see a marked improvement over a 7-9 season of the past 3 years in a row, Sean Payton is not going to be around to pay for the shortcomings.
So, and over the past couple of seasons, I know that Sean Payton has been that guy they've talked about trading. He's been one of the few coaches since John Gruden that there has been talk of him being traded to another team. And I know that some of that is just talk, but do you feel like the guy that brought the Lombardi Trophy to the New Orleans Saints, is that somebody that you would end up trading off? I guess you see where I'm going with this.
Sure. On one hand, you have the fact of everything that this team has accomplished under the tenure of Sean Payton. And then on the other hand, you have the harsh reality that maybe in the NFL more than any other professional sports entity, the National Football League is a very, very what have you done for me lately type of endeavor. Yeah. And when you look at the final tally there, 2009 may not seem like so long ago, but every 7-9 campaign you see roll by makes it look that much further in the rearview mirror.
Yeah. And do you get the vibe that, Saints fans are getting, kind of fed up with as far as Sean Payton goes, or are they still happy with what he's bringing? Or
it's you're going to get each side of that equation actually, but like I say, with every unsuccessful campaign that goes by, one side is beginning to grow louder and louder.
Get larger. Yep.
Yeah. And you guys alluded earlier to the I'm not going to say the demise, but the end of Drew Brees' career. And
I just feel like there are throws that he's doing. He's throwing the ball, but there are throws he's not making. Yeah. And those are throws that he could do effortlessly on the run. And that's just Drew Brees. But with age and everything else, you see that it's kind of slowing down for him. And I'm not saying this is the end of his career. He put up 5K, over 5K. That's gaudy Madden numbers right there. I mean, some seasons I can't even do that on Madden on easy mode. So I'm just saying, this guy is doing this real time, And as much as he's torn my heart out of my chest almost as much as Barry Sanders did back in the early days. And he's just one of those guys. One of those special players that you can look back and say, hey, I got to see this guy, this Hall of Famer, this guy that's getting this induction. I got to see him play. So I'll be happy to see him going down the road and leave us alone and stop doing what he does. But until then. And that was just my thing. Are the Saints preparing for that part of his career?
At this point, I've seen nothing substantial to that end, and that's both sad and tragic. Because of course, this is a violent game, and anything can happen at any given time. But you put into that equation the fact that you're talking about an almost 40-year-old man. I can tell you from personal experience, bones don't knit and heal very well after 40. It's like
even a hangover hurts after 40. I can tell you that.
You got that right. I would like to think that there's a method to the man's madness, and there always has been. But the conventional wisdom from a lot of people that I talk to seem to think that Peyton and Breeze came into New Orleans together and they'll leave together. And as far as that goes, I can see the validity in the expectation that when Breeze's career comes to an end, they've done nothing to prepare for this. So as you guys have found out over the several recent years, when you go into full rebuild mode, and make no mistake about it,
ain't nothing nice
in the National Football League, if you do not have a franchise quarterback, or at the very least a serviceable quarterback, you are in full rebuild mode,
and you are in a world of hurt.
Absolutely. That's going to mean one thing consistently, and that's probably losing, and losing a lot. And that's
or being consistently inconsistent.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's only one thing that is the unforgivable sin in the National Football League when it comes to coaches, and that's losing games.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, Michael, I have somebody that's asking about Tampa's offensive line. This is a Saints fan. And I wanted to see if you could address the offensive line. And what are your thoughts coming into this season, this upcoming season? How do you feel like the offensive line will be able to handle helping the run and helping Jameis Winston to have time to get the ball down the field and, just make plays?
Yeah, I think the line is going to be fine. I mean, they had their struggles last season. Definitely last season was a setback compared to the 2015 season. But I think this line is going to be just okay. I mean, they have the depth there. I think they're going to try to move Marpet to center. I think that's going to be the key move this offseason. I think if they can get that to work, I think that will solve a lot of their issues. I think center was the main issue last year. Even though they do like Joe Hawley, he's just not big enough to hold his own. Yeah. They want to get J.R. Sweezy on the field, which I think is going to happen, and he can definitely help them in the ground game. And then I think as far as their tackles go, I know a lot of people criticize on Donovan Smith, but I think the guy is just getting better with each game as he gets more experience. Same goes for Ali Marpet. So those are their two keys right there. And I think Dotson is going to be okay. He's a serviceable right tackle. Again, too many penalties at times, but he gets the job done for the most part.
I like that about his game, actually.
Yeah. But then Kevin Panfield, I think, is a riser, and they're definitely going to have him on the field as well. So I think the offense line is going to be fine. I know a lot of people want us to address it in the draft, but I just don't see it. They really like the guys they have in place. You look at like Caleb Beninock, who they added last year. He was a nice young player.
Yeah, late rounds of the draft, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, Evan Smith. they got plenty of guys on the roster right now that can definitely make this offensive line gel and work as a unit.
Yeah,
So I think it just comes to a matter of chemistry.
Yeah, and I want to point out, just to add to what you're saying, I feel like with the same coaching staff being intact and coming back the next year, consistency is so important. It's something that New Orleans hasn't really dealt with, something that Carolina hasn't really dealt with. It's something that Atlanta sort of dealt with, but Tampa has consistently dealt with inconsistency. So it's nice to have your defensive coordinator, your defensive coaches coming back, your offensive coordinator, and your offensive coaches coming back, because your core is already used to what they've been doing, and they can go in and just prepare business as usual for the regular season. So to your point, I agree with you. I think the offensive line will be just fine. I think the core that they have are good. I think they're going to eventually they're going to eventually come up to a position where you'll be able to plug and play. You'll have your core players, and you'll be able to draft the best player off the board to put in to fill these holes. So exactly. I think the offensive line will be just fine. I think you will see, as a Saints fan, I think you will see market improvement over last season, this season. And that's just based on everything that I've mentioned. I feel like they're really putting themselves in a position to keep trending upward.
Yeah, and also to note, our GM Jason Light, he's a former offensive lineman, so he knows best as far as when looking at offensive linemen and what to look for. So he's got that eye as far as lineman goes. Now he has drafted offensive lineman the last 3 years, so I wouldn't put it past him if he drafts another offensive lineman and on day 3. But the guy knows what to look for as far as the line goes. So if he's confident in who we have, then I'm pretty confident as well as a fan. So,
all right. And Eric Moreno was asking about Dalvin Cook. I know that there's been amongst Bucs fans, this has been a guy that you either want him on your team. It's like I really don't know how to describe it, if it's just Florida State versus Florida or how it's really working. But it's like you have a group of people that don't want anybody else but this man on the field. Then there are other people that feel like, hey, maybe we could go down in the draft, get more draft picks, and make more moves. Then you have other people that feel like we need a wide receiver. And then you have the other people that feel like we want a tight end. So it's in the 19th position, it's very wide open. There's no and with Jason Light, you can't really tell what he's planning on doing with that draft pick. I know a lot of people are convinced that it's going to be a running back, but Doug Martin, whether you want to believe it or not, is still in the equation. Until they say, okay, we're cutting ties with Doug Martin is still in the equation. Regardless of the 4-game suspension or whatever, or 3-game, excuse me, I said this last week, I made that same mistake, 3-game suspension. But regardless of that, Doug Martin is a guy that not this season, but season before, was a second leading rusher in the NFL. So I just
all he does is just keeps on running.
Yeah.
And he's done that for so long.
And my fear is that he'll end up in the NFC South if he goes somewhere. That's my fear.
Well, that's kind of the same way that I feel about Leonard Fournette.
Oh, goodness.
I have this recurring dream where I wake up in the middle of the night with sweat running off of me where he's wearing blue and black.
Yeah, the Carolina Panther, I know. That sticks in my mind.
Yeah. But, to be completely honest with you, and there's a couple of reasons for this. When it comes to running backs, that was one of the positions that I played, so I look at them a little more in depth and harshly. I know different things to look for and look at. And that being said, my number one running back in the draft, I haven't. There's only one other person that of everybody that I've heard agree with me that this would be the guy for the New Orleans Saints to get. And even that being said, that comes with caveats as well, and that would be Joe Mixon.
Well, okay, now so we're on. This was another, and I gotta address this. Michael Smiley, he knows what I'm talking about. Okay, so we've all heard about what happened 2 years ago, and I would have to say that your scouts and your GM, everybody has a vetting process.
Sure.
In determining if a player is capable of staying out of trouble if you draft him. Because in the grand scheme of things, as a NFL franchise, this is an investment.
Yeah.
And you want this to be a long-term investment. So you're not just going to sit here and pick a guy, he's got a bad character issue, and he's still continually doing things. You're not going to bring that guy into your organization because it's not going to do you any good, and it's a waste of a draft pick. Yeah. Now, when we talk about Mixon, the kid's got a huge upside. Huge upside. And
yes, indeed.
This is not to take anything away from Dalvin Cook. To all you Florida State fans out there, I love you, but I'm just being. This is football. This is good business. I'm talking good business. I'm talking football here. So when I talk about Mixon, he's one of those guys that he's a special player, kind of.
He is.
And I think that wherever he goes, he's going to be a huge improvement over what that team has. So my question to you is, you're putting your GM hat on. I know you don't have a hat, but you can invisibly put a hat on. Okay, you've got your GM hat on now. So is Mixon one of those guys that you could see improving your offense to get you to the next level?
Absolutely. Let me tell you this. I spent part of my childhood in Oklahoma, so Oklahoma football is something that I follow closer than the average person. That being said, I saw the full college career of not only Joe Mixon, but also Adrian Peterson. Mm-hmm. Joe Mixon is maybe twice the player coming out that Adrian Peterson was. From a standpoint, strictly talent. Mm-hmm. Now, there's that little caveat of off the field issues notwithstanding, which is kind of a misnomer because in this position, there's no such thing as off the field issues notwithstanding. Of course, they're going to make a difference. But, at this point in the
and when you say that, I'm just going to add my 2 cents in right now. This guy has finished all of his community service, and he's still taking anger management classes.
Sure.
And we know that football players at times have egos, and they feel like they're invincible. And the fact that this kid is still going through anger management, still trying to better himself, it tells me something about him. Whereas I've seen I've seen some kids get in trouble, get out of trouble, and think they're above the law. Look at you used the operative word here in this particular situation, I think, and that's kid. There's only a fine line that these people are walking between helping a kid to turn the corner and become a man, right, and at the same time, as is so often the case, you see and I'm trying to choose my words correctly because I don't want to make people mad here, but you see in this situation a bad attitude, a bad person, that this is not an opportunity so much as it's an opportunity to enable bad behavior. Yeah, and this was a life-changing event. This was a life-changing event, what happened to him.
Sure. Case in point, you look a year or two ago, Randy Gregory, the guy failed a drug test at the combine. Did he not wake up and realize maybe 3 or 4 months prior that he was going to a job fair that was really important?
Hey, another case in point, Noah Spence. Noah Spence kicked off of a football team. He could have easily just given up. He humbled himself, went to a Division II school. It was Division II, right? Division two, and he improved his game. He came out and he's put all that stuff behind him. Tyrann Mathieu, safety here in Arizona, another guy. These guys have had second chances and they've made the most out of second chances. And
absolutely,
I think that's the direction I'm going with this. I get sick of people talking about I'm holier than thou, or he did this and he doesn't deserve another opportunity. My thing is this: if you put your life on DVD, can everybody watch it? Is there any parts of your life that you wouldn't want anybody to watch?
Man,
Nobody can say yes to that. You can watch any part of my life, you know. And myself,
I would get the title up there, but that may be about as far as that one went. But you know, at the end of the day, it's as you alluded to, it's the vetting process. Determining whether this guy is for real or is he saying what he thinks everybody wants to hear. This is the opportunity business. A lot of people look at the draft through the wrong eyes, in my opinion, nowadays. It's not like if you make it to the draft and you're one of those 32 guys that's whose name is called on the first night, you've got it made. No. The NFL draft is nothing more than an opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, the one thing I will say is, you know, in talking with Michael Pless, this guy, and I just want to, as a caveat here, please follow him during the draft. If you can catch up with him on Twitter, follow him on the draft. This guy is lights out on picks. I mean, I don't say this about everybody, but I'm just so impressed with him. He does a great job. And, you know, again, as you've heard him tonight, great football IQ, real Bucs talk, under the dome. You guys did a great job tonight. But I know we talked a lot about the Saints, and just in your opinion,
you say that like it's a bad thing.
No, hey. This is the off season. You're safe during the off season. When we get to the regular season, then it may be a little bit dicey there, but just for now, you're all right. So
okay, all right, we're good.
I just want to ask your opinion. Do you feel like if everything falls the right way, that the Saints are in a position to leapfrog over the Atlanta Falcons and the Carolina Panthers and the Bucs even to get into the playoffs, get into the playoff picture and put themselves in the hunt? This, you know, based on what they've done so far.
Sure. That's the short answer. The long answer, you know, a year ago, I really, at this point in the year, I really liked where we were sitting. You fast forward past the beginning of training camp, prior to the opening game of the season, and by week 2 of the season, you're down to your 7th string cornerback. Being your starter, you know, and don't get me wrong, I don't, as I alluded to earlier, I don't make excuses. And if you have a great team, if it weren't for this one getting hurt, you don't have a great team.
Yeah, that's all.
Injuries are a part of this game, and if you don't have a plan to deal with that and to circumvent that and to get around that, then you don't have everything. Your team isn't everything that you think it is, if right. That makes any sense. I probably could have worded that better, but at any rate, you know, it was what it was. But yeah, as you, and this is not something I can say on a Panthers or a Falcons podcast, but hey, it's lonely at the top. As you guys know, in a Super Bowl winning season, there's a lot more to it than just winning games.
Yep.
Yeah, it's something you can't hold a conversation with those guys about. You know? Much as I'd like to, I try to describe it, but you can't.
What I mean by that is, you know, it's a lot more than skill. It's a lot more than this and that. There's a lot of luck involved in it. I mean, absolutely. The ball has to bounce your way a lot. The the loose balls on the loose balls on the field have to bounce towards you a lot more than they bounce away from you. There's so much that goes into making a run. Do I feel like the Saints are going to be in a position to make just such a run? I feel cautiously optimistic about it. Yeah, sure.
Absolutely. All right. So, I'm really at this point. And hard to believe we almost gone an hour and a half. But guys, and I really appreciate you coming on. I do this for the fans. I do this for fun, and just getting another perspective was really nice to really get that. Michael's always welcome. You're always welcome on the show anytime. I really enjoyed you, and I'm kind
of limited to 6 months out of the year, though, right?
Exactly. Then after that, no. But I want you to tell everybody how they can get a hold of your podcast. I really love the content. I listen to it.
Thank you,
sir. So I can get an idea what's going on in New Orleans, because so many people overlook New Orleans, and it's always a very dangerous team, year in and year out, to upset a team. So I think it's important to know who you're facing during the regular season.
Absolutely.
So again, your content is very good, and I really appreciate what you do. So tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, and we'll start from there.
Thank you very much, Gene, for that compliment. We try really hard, and all that being said, I am on Twitter at DrewsDad3721. My co-host Alan Ulrich is on Twitter at 79 Saints. Our show's account is at Under the Dome PO1, and you find all of our Twitter handles and so on and so forth pinned at the top of our Twitter account. We have a Facebook page that, as I speak, is steadily climbing. We're closing in on our 1,000th follower since July of last year. So things have really taken off for us. I want to tell you guys, thank you so much for having me as a guest on here. I really like what you guys do as well. And as I mentioned earlier, I want to reciprocate and have you guys join us sometime.
Thank you very much. Again, and you are always welcome on the show. I really appreciate your content. Michael Pless.
Thank you, sir.
As usual, very brilliant, high football IQ. Tell everybody how they can get a hold of you, and tell everybody what you're actually writing about next. I know we're still in draft mode, and we're getting closer. Cross your fingers, that everybody gets their player, well, except for New Orleans. But hopefully everybody gets their players.
Yeah, thanks, Gene. You can follow us at Real Bucs Talk. Please check out our new site. It's realbucstalk.com. We're putting out a lot of good content. It's mainly NFL draft right now. That's our main focus. That's what I'm working on, more prospect previews and basically prospects that we feel are best fits for the Buccaneers team right now. But again, like I was saying earlier, we put up a lot of videos, a lot of content where it's our opinions, but the fans have a chance to make their own opinions as well, as far as what we put out there. Very interactive, and that's our goal. We basically just want to know where this team is heading as far as a Bucs standpoint, and just bring fans together. That's really what we're about. And we just got started, and we can't wait to talk draft. It's gonna be awesome.
All right, I appreciate that. Mm-hmm. And I want to get you guys on after day one of the draft. I'd love to do a little impromptu podcast. Get you guys on. I'm gonna get some other people on from different teams, just to get your take on how you feel your team is done off of day one, and where what direction you think we're headed. So please, if you could keep some time open, I'll let you know as we get closer to the draft if that might be something you'd be interested in doing.
Hey, Gene. Gene.
Yes.
Yes. I wanted to. I'm not accustomed to plugging things. I wanted to remind everyone, whether you be Saints, Bucs, whatever fans, we're doing a 2-hour pre-draft show on April the 25th on Under the Dome. We're going to have a couple of obviously Saints-related interviews, but the hook of the evening is we're going to be doing a live first-round mock draft by journalists that cover some of these teams as well.
All right.
So we want to invite everyone to watch us on that. You can go to our Facebook page, and there will be links posted accordingly to get you into that.
That's sweet. I'll make sure that I retweet that as well. Again, knowledge is power, and it really helps to get different perspectives. And I think we're in a mode right now where we're getting away from the regular media, the 4-letter network and the 3-letter network, and we're starting to listen to fans and listen to what fans have to say. And some of these fans have a little bit more on some of these broadcasters on some of these other stations. So it's good to promote from within, promote people that have podcasts that are passionate about this, and get that kind of stuff out there. So most definitely I'll get that out there. And everybody, I want to thank everybody. The chat was live tonight, and I appreciate everybody that was able to contribute in the chat. Douglas O'Connor, Matt Ulrich, C3 Church, C3, just everybody that was in here communicating. It was a lot of fun, and I really appreciate that. So again, look for me next week. I'm going to have another special guest to just kind of get another perspective on another NFL team. But I really appreciate you guys, and that's pretty much it for Buc What You Heard. Corey Fleming, I'll hit you up after the show. Give me your Twitter handle in the chat, and I'll get back with you. But anyway, everybody, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.